Been a while, crocodile, is what I said, but my mic was muted. I need to fix my mic settings because I can't be too far away from the mic, or my voice is not going to be picked up, sadly. But I just need to do that another day. And we're going to read this book. I'm glad you guys are here. You guys are awesome. This is going to be super interesting, super fun, not boring at all. So don't click away, because we are reading not just any book, but we're reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, part 2. Let's jump right into it. I'm just trying to stay afloat, and I don't know where I'm going. On a road I barely know, on a road I barely know it. Won't you get down on the... We are not doing this right now. Please ignore this and ignore that. And ignore the phone that dropped earlier. That was my fault. We left off somewhere around here. Recap. This book is crazy. Been talking about, we'll go page before. Not gonna read too much earlier. So it's like, these are anecdotals of certain things. And one story is like, listen son, I am saying this as you lie asleep. One little paw crumpled under your cheek, and the blood curls stickily wet on your damp forehead. I have stolen into your room alone just a few minutes ago. As I sat reading my paper in the library, a stifling wave of remorse swept over me. Guiltily, I came to your bedside. These are the things I was thinking, son. I had been across to you. I scolded you as you were dressing for school because you gave your face merely a dab without a towel. I took you to task for not cleaning your shoes. I called out angrily when you threw some of the things on the floor. At breakfast, I found fault too. You spilling things, you gulped down your food, you put your elbows on the table, you spread butter too thick on your bread, and as you started off to play and I made for my train, you turned and waved a hand and called, "Goodbye, Daddy," and I frowned and said in reply, "Hold your shoulders back." Then it began all over again in the late afternoon. As I came up in the road, I spied you, down on your knees playing marbles. There were holes in your stockings. I humiliated you before your boyfriends by marching you ahead of me to the house. Stockings were expensive, and if you had to buy them, you would be more careful. Imagine that, son, from a father. Alright. Fortunately, oh no, I skipped a page. I skipped a whole bunch of pages. Do you remember later, when I was reading in the library, how you came in timidly, with a sort of hurt look in your eyes? When I glanced up over my paper, impatient at the interruption, you hesitated at the door. "What is it you want?" I snapped. You said nothing, but ran across in one tempestuous plunge and threw your arms around my neck and kissed me. And your small arms tightened with affection that God had sent blooming in your heart, in which which even neglect could not wither. And then you were gone, pattering up the stairs. Well, son, it was short afterwards that my paper slipped from my hands, and a terrible snickering fear came over me. What has habit been doing to me? The habit of finding fault, of reprimanding. This was my reward to you for being a boy. It was not that I did not love you. It was that I expected too much of youth. I was measuring you by the yardstick of my own years. And there was so much that was good and fine and true in your character That little heart of you was as big as the dawn itself over the wide hills. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse. Sorry, raspy ass voice right now. Here we go. This was shown by your spontaneous impulse to rush in and kiss me goodnight. Nothing else matters tonight. Son, I've come to your bedside, in the darkness, and I've knelt there ashamed. Oh, we're ashamed. It's a feeble atonement. I know you would not understand these things if I told them to you during your waking hours. But tomorrow I will be ready. I will be a real daddy. I will chum with you and suffer when you suffer and laugh when you laugh. I will bite my tongue when impatient words come. I'll keep saying as if it were a ritual. He is nothing but a boy, a little boy. I am afraid I have visualized you as a man, yet as I see you now, son, crumpled and weary in your cot, I see that you are still a baby. Yesterday you were in your mother's arms, your head on her shoulder. I have asked too much, too much. Isn't it profound the influence one is afforded, even the smallest among us? When affirmation comes clean off the tongue and clear from our hearts, all great progress in problem solving with other begins when at least one party is willing to take place what is already good on the table. Wow. From there, it is much easier to know where to begin and how to lead the interaction to a mutually beneficial end. Well, I just gotta soak in that information because that was pretty. I'll read it one more time. All great progress in problem solving begins with, solving with others begins with at least one party is willing to place what is already good on the table. From there, it is much easier to know where to begin and how to lead the interaction to a mutually beneficial end. All great progress. Wow. Alright. We're doing this. If we're doing this, we're doing this. We're all caught up. That was the preview. That was the sneak peek preview, boys. If you want to do me a huge favor, I would really appreciate it if you click that button over there. And maybe, it's actually over there. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Click that button over there. And, yeah. Maybe smash the like button too, that'd be cool. If not, no worries, we're chilling. We don't need the validation. I'm doing this for me. Doing this to improve my public speaking and vocabulary and all that fun jazz in life. And we're also gonna go live on Instagram too, because the more the merrier, they say. If I can figure it out. Okay, here we go. Let's jump right back into it. We are reading. That is an awful angle. Absolutely, positively awful. Whatever. We are reading today How to Win Friends and Influence People, Part 2. Picking up where we left off. Page 45. How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age. Dale Carnegie and Associates. Connect with core desires. In early 2002, Time put on an odd-looking computer on its cover. It had a small doomed base and a jointed, shiny chrome neck affixed to a flat screen monitor that enabled it to be pushed, pulled, turned, lowered, or raised with the nudge of a finger. It was called the iMac, and the company introducing it, Apple Computer, desperately needed it to work in order to stay in business. Apple had always been the daring of a particular computing niche, generally creative, anti-establishment types. But in the article that accompanied the cover story, its CEO, Steve Jobs, enunciated a brand new vision for consumers. He said he believed the future lay in the PC as the digital hub, as as camcorders, digital cameras, MP3 players, Palm PDAs, cell phones, and DVD players. He risked the community's future on a vision, a place where the entire digital life could be consolidated. And so with the iMac came a free suite of software that today is synonymous with the digital age: iTunes, iPhoto, and iMovie. Critics and competitors mocked Jobs. Some of Apple's longtime rivals called the computer clownish and silly, and the vision far too grand. The public, they seemed to embrace the vision and the life that it promised. An Apple computer, now simply Apple, has seen its share price increase 4,856%. The closest competitor has increased approximately 14%. Why? It's because other computer companies would prefer no one to buy their products. Of course, not they all want to be successful, they all want to be well liked. What they are after is more and more influence in the form of people consuming their product. I get it. The difference is that Steve Jobs recognized something Dale Carnegie championed repeatedly. To influence others to act, you must first connect to a core desire within them. This is universal truth, whether you are dealing with children or clients or calves. One day, the famous philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, shout out to Emerson, and his son were trying to get a calf into the barn. It was going rather poorly. They pushed and the calf pulled. They pulled and the calf pushed. Meanwhile, their housemaid noticed their predicament, and though she couldn't write brilliant essays or books, she possessed an insight she thought might solve the problem. That sounds like common sense. She walked over to the calf and put her finger in its mouth. While the calf suckled, she gently led it to the barn. That's weird as shit. What did the maid know that the luminous philosopher had forgotten? She knew that one of the calf's core desires was food. When she tapped into the desire, the calf willingly followed. Emerson and his son merely thought about what they desired, the calf in the barn so they could eat their lunch, but the calf, happily grazing in a green pasture, had little interest in descending into a dark, confined barn that curtailed his dining options. That is until the housemaid showed up, offered her finger, and reminded the calf that some warm milk was in his future. I love warm milk. Warm milk. I could go for that right now. Almond milk with some chai tea. And the cinnamon roll. That would be nice. Okie dokie. It is an excellent metaphor because it reminds us two key insights we often overlook when trying to influence others. Influence requires more intuition than intellect. The critical contrast between the luminary Emerson and his humble housemaid is not one of dissimilar brain power. While Emerson was likely the more learned of the two, the divergence I usually don't kill him, but this one I wanted to. It was weird. It was annoying. Okay, I'm sorry. Emerson and his humble housemaid is not one of the similar brain power. While Emerson was likely the more learned of the two, the divergence between them was one of intuition. The housemaid had what Emerson lacked. The public world tends to freely ascribe sway to those in lofty positions that require much education and aptitude. The CEO, department chair, physician, and billionaire, we assume such people can move majorities with a whisper and a snap of the finger. But a Guy Kozlowski, former chief evangelist, you know what I mean, and at Apple pointed out, if such a person does not have a deep relationship with people, she will not have much influence with them. Deep relationships. That's the key we're taking away from here. The truth is that such stately individuals possess merely above average conditions to influence, while the way in which influence is won remains no different for them than for anyone else. Influence is no respecter of education or experience. It goes only with the one who will set aside his status, be it high and mighty or low and lowly, and put himself in the place of another. To do so takes a shrewd and spontaneous ability to read beneath the surface of an interaction. What is essential, wrote Anote de Saint-Exupéry, I don't know, I can't pronounce that, French maybe, is invisible to the eye. This is an important truth. This is an important truth to keep in mind when dealing with those you would like to win over. Influencing others is not a matter of outsmarting them. It's a matter of discerning what they truly want and offering it to them in a mutually beneficial package. He knows so little and accomplishes so much. Robert McFarlane. Sorry, that's too much for me right now. Robert McFarlane, the third of President Reagan's 6 national security advisors, once marveled of his boss. When Reagan left Washington, more popular than when he first took office, writes Richard Norton Smith, he accomplished something that hadn't been done since Dwight Eisenhower. How, according to President Obama, Reagan recognized the American people's hunger for accountability and change. He tapped into what people were already feeling. Influence requires a gentle hand. There were Emerson and his son in four-handed, 8-legged tug of war with obstinate Calf, who was holding his ground. It is no way to say another to your side. Onto the scene, in great contrast, strides the housemaid with an index finger extended. My eye is bugging right now. There is something like an eyelash or something, or just an itch, like, it was weird. And I completely lost my spot, so we're cool. Anyway, we're right here. Onto the scene, in great contrast, strides the housemaid with the index finger extended straight and not hooked no less. And the one stubborn calf is suddenly light on its hooves and willingly wrapped around the housemaid's pointer. Lest we forget, it is a memorable image of what little moving we have to do to move another to action. As a constant reminder, former U.S. President Dwight Eisenhower displayed a paperweight in the Oval Office that in Latin read, "Gently in manner, strong in deed. There is no question of his global influence. Action springs from what we fundamentally desire." Author Harry Overstreet writes in Influencing Human Behavior, and the best piece of advice which can be given to would-be persuaders, whether in business, in the home, in the school, in politics, is, first, arouse in the other person an eager want. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. An eager want. The practice of connecting with core desires is applicable across industry lines and international borders. It is as important for the energy executive from Holland as it is the executive producer in Hollywood. The interpersonal efforts that inevitably succeed are those in which the messenger stops dictating and starts discovering what the recipient wants. The interpersonal efforts that inevitably fail by the corporate collaboration, personal corporation, or artistic rendering are those in which the messenger attempts to tell the recipient what he wants. This is perhaps no more evidence than in the sales industry, an industry of which, in a semantic sense, we are all part. We are all part, period. We are all part. In his book, Killing the Scale, bestseller author Todd Duncan describes the 10 fatal mistakes salespeople make. One of them he calls arguing, and when we fail to connect with another's core needs, we are just as guilty of it, whether or not we call selling our profession. The mistake of arguing is staking your sales success on your ability to state your case in convincing fashion. It's mastering a monologue. It's mastering a monologue, and then expecting the jury of your prospects to be convinced to take your side. But establishing an initial level of trust takes way more flowery monologue. It takes dialogue, it takes actual conversation. There is no other way for you to know your product or service will meet a person's needs. He later cites Dr. Theodore Zeldin, author of Conversation, who makes the point succinctly. You gotta look that word up real quick. Succinctly? What? SUCCINCTLY. Succinctly. In a brief and clearly expressed manner. Succinctly. That sounds really nice. Completely lost the word. Should have highlighted it. Definitely was still on this side. No, I wasn't. Succinctly, where are you? Fuck me. Establishing an initial level of trust takes more than flowery monologue. It takes dialogue. It takes actual conversation. There's no way for you to know your product or service will meet a person's needs. It's mind-boggling that despite the millions of branding and marketing dollars spent every year, much is still spent on the messenger's wants and whimsies. I know it's whims, but that's what my brain wants to say. Whimsies rather than the recipient's core desires. We get an idea in our head for who we want to be or how we want others to perceive our offering. And we spend more time shaping and shining that image than we do asserting whether the image really matters to those to whom it must matter. Most individuals and organizations invest more resources in campaigning than in connecting. It should be the other way around. Yeah, totally. Oh, there it is. Don't even know how to pronounce it. Succinctly. Yeah. Succinctly. There it is. If you're on my Instagram, you won't be able to see it. Unless I do this. That's the word. Succinctly. And that's my stream. My stream. This is like Black Mirror status quo right here. No, not even close. Any other way. Moving on. Consider the comparison chart. Wait, did I even? Oh yeah. Consider the comparison chart. Duncan offers juxtaposing. I like that word. Duncan offers juxtaposing what the two forms of interpersonal communication say about you. Dialogue, considerate. Monologue, conceited. Dialogue, considerate. Monologue, conceited. Makes sense to me. Can't lie. Authentic, transparent, secure. Interested in meeting needs. Builds trust. And on the other hand, we got fake, manipulative, needy. Interested in making money. Builds tensiona. I'm annotating every word because that is a new one. There's my alarm. It's that early. Sheesh. Okay. Tense stresses. Can I get a pronunciation, please? How to pronounce, not tension. It's literally spelled Tensiona. Tense. Is that tension? Tension. I guess it doesn't matter too much. Builds tensiona. And then I'll repeat them one more time. So we got on the good side, a healthy relationship, dialogue, considerate, authentic, transparent, secure, interested in meeting needs, builds trust. Pretty good. And then on the other one, the not so healthy relationship, you got monologue, conceited. Monologue, conceited, fake, manipulative, needy, interested in making money. That's interesting. And builds tension. That's what I'm just gonna say. Tension. Okay. Of course, connecting to these people, connecting to people's core desires, does not mean the world will be your oyster. Suffice it to say that without this approach, others will remain largely unapproachable. Their ears will close and their eyes will look elsewhere for something or someone more engaging. And their options are endless and very world Steve Jobs. In the very world Steve Jobs saw in 2002. Fortunately, most corporate emails, company tweets, brand blog entries, and commercial ad campaigns are monologues meant to broadcast opinions, distinguish brands, launch products, and conduct personas. It is precisely because this is so that the person who speaks in a spirit of dialogue and altruistic discovery nabs a significant advantage. How do you know if you hold this advantage? An honest inventory of your impact is usually enough. Have your employees really stepped it up, or do they remain in a cycle of fits and falters? You are confident your marriage is on the upswing, but what does your spouse have to say? You insist the customers are impressed by your new products. Does your scales revenues concur? You say your brand is sweeping the nation, but against what standard are you measuring brand recognition? In The 7 Arts of Change, author David Shanner clarifies the difference between those who are truly connect with core desires, and those who are merely playing influence the way kids play doctor. He writes, nearly every study of organizational change over the past 2 decades initiates the companies fail to make the change they intend, approximately 70% of the time. Before organizational change can succeed, it must first occur at the subtle spiritual level in the individuals of organizations. At lasting transformation must begin there because ultimately your spirit and mind is the primary driver of all our behavior. It's just throwing me off because it says spirit and mind, like M-I-N-E. Like, it's supposed to be spirit and mind, but it must be a typo. Your spirit and mind is the primary driver of all our behavior and actions. Mind, body, actions. Because nothing can materialize without acting. Anyway, true change is born of an interpersonal reach that takes hold of the deepest part of an individual. Shanner's explanation is dead on, and he should know his company, Connect Consulting, has for 30 years helped multinational corporations such as Duracell, Robbie, Mark USA, and SVP worldwide lead successful company change efforts. His words remind us that no company-wide campaign of individuals' communication strategy garners influence until it connects with people at the core. It is an essential principle in all your efforts to influence others, whether your audience is a 5-year-old child or a 5,000-year-old employee. A 5,000 employee? That's stupid. A former U.S. Secretary of Education once recounted how he didn't learn this essential element of engagement until after his first year on the job. He felt pretty good about his progress. He had ventured out and given speeches, and people had applauded him and smiled. He attended many dinner parties and sumptuous gatherings, and all seemed to go off without a hitch. But to what end? While home over Christmas, with time to reflect, he came to acknowledge that while he'd been highly visible and highly promissory, that's another word I want to highlight. I'm sorry, guys. These are just new vocab words, I guess. Promiss. Is that A? O. Wow, these glasses. I can't even see with them, to be honest. They're supposed to like reduce the blue ray fucking lights, whatever. Promissory. Conveying or implying a promise. Ooh. Highly visible and highly promissory. Nothing in the department had really changed. 5,000 employees showed up on time. They completed their assigned work. They went home. There was movement, but few and any were moved. Inside or outside the office walls. He wanted to understand why. Over the first 2 months of the following year, he spent a lot of time with the people who ran the Department of Education, the career civil service workers who pressed forward no matter which political party filled the White House. He came to the sobering realization that while he stood on the bridge turning the wheel wasn't connected to anything below. And since he had no authority to hire or fire from the civil service ranks, the only ways he could influence positive progress in the department was by winning them over. The problem was they'd seen politicians come and go. They'd grown tired and cynical. They'd given up on the I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a mess, stuttering. My voice has been so raspy. Can't talk for too long for some reason. It's been a long day. We're going though. Let's go. Department of Education. The career civil service workers who pressed forward no matter which political party filled the White House. He came to the sobering realization that while he stood on the bridge turning the wheel wasn't connected to anything below. And since he had no authority to hire or fire from the civil service ranks, the only way he could influence positive progress in the department was by winning them over. The problem was, they'd seen politicians come and go. They'd grown tired and cynical. They'd given up on... This is the same part I stopped at. Deriving. They've given up on deriving inspiration from the top. Deriving is also a good word, but I'm not going to look it up for time's sake. The secretary's wife suggested the way to win them over was by reminding them he was passionate about education, and to do so with new words, but with new actions. Go to schools, spend time with kids, do retail. Everyone will notice because these are the things that they really care about. And deriving spelled D-E-R-I-V-I-N-G. I don't do retail, he huffed. I'm the Secretary of Education. I do wholesale. What a Chad. No, I'm just imagining this. I don't do retail. Resale is under me. I do wholesale. It's funny though. His wife, the daughter of the salesman, smiled. Darling, she said, if you can't do retail, you'll never do wholesale. She was right, and the secretary knew it. For the next year, he toured the country, rolled up his sleeves, read stories, listened to teachers, and was reminded how much he loved retail education. It was a personal victory. More significant, however, was the effect his actions had on his employees. The passion was revived, passion for their daily tasks, for better education, for more opportunities for more families. They were inspired by the secretary's work because his actions had accomplished something the speeches and scrumptious gatherings had not. They had tapped a core desire of the tireless Department of Education workers. Purpose. They wanted to believe again. They just needed to be reminded that their work still mattered. The secretary offered this reminder, and it dramatically tuned the tide. It's in our rushed world. It is easy to forgo the secretary's level of analysis. So much of our digital communication is one way that we can come to believe we have limited opportunity to uncover another's perspective. While we communicate with more and more people every day, we also become more insular in our approach. We are far more inclined to focus on how we can best broadcast our points from our own perspective, quickly, broadly, or both. Isn't this what we witness all around us? It is easy to get caught up in a fray that we forget what we are aiming for. Connection, influence, agreement, collaboration. We can start to believe the battle is won by merely frequency and occasional originality, useful strategies in the right context, but greatly insufficient as you only influence strategies. There is a good side, however, to this constant barrage of one-sided broadcasting which spans the spectrum from corporate posturing to celebrity positioning. Today, with a few keystrokes, we can better educate ourselves about other people's perspectives and goals. Earlier, we discussed the dangers of using your digital space to spout off your complaints. Most of us are more discerning about what we divulge. We reveal what matters to us, what we think about often, what we love and like and hope to see happen soon. These tidbits of information add up to a body of knowledge that offers clues and even clear windows to the core desires. This knowledge is invaluable where influence is concerned because, like the calf, they just wanted more food. We only move toward what moves us. We only move toward what moves us. That's a line. Quote of the day. To what moves us. Perfect. Perfect. Alright, here we go. Jumping right in hither. When it comes to learning the quickest way to win friends, shall we return to the person with the most followers on Twitter, the blogger with the most digs, the savviest salesperson, or the most powerful politician? While each can boast of abundant followship, and while each will likely offer good advice, such people might not be our best role models. In fact, our best role models might not be people at all. Perhaps dogs are. Whether we've stepped outside for 2 minutes or traveled for 2 weeks, dogs welcome our return as if we are heroes. They never demean us or mock us or stand us up for dates. They exist to befriend us, to orbit around us as the center of their existence. Are they even without pure joy just being in our presence? That's literally dogs. They mentioned dogs. I literally felt that way about like mountains. Like mountains, bro. That's my fucking role model. Dogs are called man's best friend for a reason. Stories of canine loyalty are stuff of legend. The great poet Byron wrote of his dog Boat Swan, he had all the virtues of a man and none of his vices. These are also the stories of our day. John Katz, A Dog Year, and John Grogan's Marley and Me were nothing if not love stories written by men grieved by their dogs' passings. Dogs know by some divine instinct that you can make more friends in minutes by becoming genuinely interested in other people than you can in months of trying to get other people interested in you. It is more than a furry, four-legged platitude. It is a primary principle without relations, especially when viewed through the lens of a canine, is that our longing for significance in the lives of others should be so simple to meet, yet we can complicate the matter. Our biggest struggle is selfishness, the single greatest deterrent to amity. Man, these words are coming out of left field. Amity, bro. A-M-I-T. Why? Definition, please. A friendly relationship.
Amity.
Okay. Makes sense. Shout out to my one watcher. You're sick, whoever you are. Much love. Any of the ways. Where did we leave off? Amity. That we are interested primarily in ourselves is not a phenomenon as new as Twitter or Facebook. It predates Friendster and MySpace. It came before cell phones and email and the internet. In the 1930s, when Carnegie was penning the original manuscript of this book, The New York Telephone Company made a detailed study of telephone conversations to find out which word was the most frequently used. The personal pronoun I was used 3,900 times in 500 telephone conversations. Whoa. I was. No, it's just I. 3,900 times in 500 telephone conversations. Our selfishness, or more politely, our self-interest, populates the morals of the great fables. Icarus swoops and soars into the sun's warmth, melting the wax on his wings, sending him plummeting to the ocean below because he thinking only to himself. Ignoring the plea of his father, Peter Rabbit incurs Mr. McGregor wrath by ignoring his mother's commands to stay out of his garden. Why did Adam and Eve disobey God in the Garden of Eden? They were thinking only of themselves. That's true. That's a true ass line. That one hit me. They were thinking only of themselves. This self-interest isn't something anyone is likely to change. It is a gravity-like reality. We are born with innate fight or flight tendencies, fawn or freeze, as well. That is to say, our bodies, our words, and actions trends toward self-preservation. Yet we often forget to consider whom we are really fighting against, and to what destination are we fleeing. If we are not mindful, our self-defense can turn into self-detention, keeping us from meaningful interaction, and in some cases cutting us off from interpersonal progress altogether. If we are not mindful, the destination to which we flee can become a lonely, isolated isle. Like the city of Troy, whose walls of great defense. Oh my god. I'm tired, not gonna lie, but I'm gonna continue reading. Because I really want to read this right now. It is in the individual who is not interested in his fellow man, wrote Alfred Alder, the famous Australian psychotherapist who has the greatest difficulties in life and provides the greatest injury to others. It is from such individuals that all human failures spring. That's quite an audacious statement. Yeah, it is. But it is a statement born out in fact. Humanity's greatest failures, from the killing fields of Cambodia to the collapse of Lehman Brothers, are the result of people interested only in themselves. Damn the collateral damage. These are extreme examples, but the everyday versions are just as disturbing. The General Counsel, busted for taking a bribe, never thought of the shareholders who were counting on that stock for their retirement. The pro athlete. Oh my god. Sorry. I'm really sorry. The pro athlete who took performance enhancing drugs never considered how his actions would affect his teammates, his team's future, or the sport he claims to love. The husband and father caught in his lie was more interested in preserving a double life than protecting his family's hearts. What is it, making me cry? No, joking. Definitely not making me cry. Still, self-preservation downfall is about more than catastrophes. It's more than catastrophes. Look back at the quote. It is the individual who is not interested in his fellow men who has the greatest difficulties in life. Alder is simply explaining that a self-centered life is the most problematic life one can live. A life lived in constant interpersonal struggle. Few true friends, shallow short-lived influence. This can seem a foreboding principle to embody in an age in which we are rewarded for brooding over and broadcasting our interests far and wide. But the ancient maxim is still true, for whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Our effectiveness communicating in what in the end are you promoting? Today, people are more informed and subsequently more intuitive than ever. Most of us immediately see through a person whose approaches through a person whose messaging is only for personal benefit. We see gimmicks a mile away. We run from underhanded. Messages offer mutual benefit. Andrew Sullivan, one of the world's top political bloggers, has considered such matters for more than a decade. Once the youngest ever editor-in-chief of the vulnerable New Republic, Sullivan was diagnosed HIV positive in the early 1990s, and it was still a death sentence. After leaving that post, Sullivan became one of the internet's first big political bloggers, with his site hitting more than 300,000 unique visitors per month in 2003. One of the things that set Sullivan apart from his peers was international interaction with his readership. He wanted his blog, The Daily Dish, to be more about more than politics. I wish it said to be more than about politics, but whatever. It's just me. He wanted loyal readers, and he generally wanted to know more about the people who followed him. He came up with the idea for view from your window. I doubt he did. That's such an iconic term. In which he asked his readers to submit shots of the world outside their homes. As with most things on the internet, he had no idea if it would hit. I wanted to see their worlds, he explained. I was giving all these people all of this. What? You were giving them all of what? Access to mine. See, there it is again. M-I-N-E. I don't know if they're saying mine or mind. I mean, mine would work too, I guess. You think about it, maybe. Access to mine. But one way, interactions are ultimately boring, and it was no small gesture, and it soon boosted his relationships with readers. Damn. That eyelash stay in my eye forever. It just lives there now. Eyelashes live in my eyebrow? What is this? Give me all my money back. I want a refund. Any other way. But one-way interactions are ultimately boring. It was a nice gesture, and it soon boosted his relationships with readers. After the gregarious, bro, I have to annotate that word. I'm trying not to annotate as many words as I see, but every single word, bro. I'm just that stupid. Just need to see what this means. And I should have highlighted it. Where is it? Completely lost it. Can I do Control F? No, I can't. Garius. We're just gonna pretend this is it.
Gregarious.
I got it right. Found of company, sociable. I just need to find my spot now. Oh, I'm right at the beginning. Lol. After the gregarious feature was introduced, and gregarious means found of company or social. So after the gregarious feature was introduced, Sullivan's work became the centerpiece for the Atlantic Monthly online strategy, and that site's traffic increased by 30%. It is no surprise that Sullivan's robust blog following remained when he moved his blog to Newsweek and the Daily Beast. People are attracted to people who care about what interests them. The irony of this principle, take interest in others' interests, is that its effectiveness is predicted on others thinking of themselves. Its effectiveness essentially requires other being self-interested. There are two things to say about this. First, self-interest, in its purest form, is part of human nature. Fight or flight. This principle does not deny self-interest existence in all our lives. Instead, it indicates that most people, on most days, forget the other side of the human equation. Everyone else most takes self-interest to the self-centered end of the spectrum. The effectiveness of this principle is therefore tied directly to the infrequency in which most choose to think outside themselves on most days. The one who chooses, conversely, to take interest in others' interest on a daily basis is set apart. We remember such people, befriend them, and come to trust them more deeply. Influence is ultimately an outcropping of trust. The higher the trust, the greater the influence. Second, the principle, or the pinnacle of this principle, is not complete. Self-denial, notice, the principle does not read, replace your interests with other interests. It instead reads, take interest in others' interests, and that is a secret to its application. When you incorporate others' interests into your own, not merely for the sake of clarifying your market or asserting your audience, you find that your interests are met in the process of helping others. Who would have guessed? Tell me something I don't know now. Consider bestseller author Nay Rice, who has sold more than 110 million books in her lifetime. Her career began and achieved sustained success with her famed vampire books, including Interview with the Vampire, which was made into a major motion picture. While she is an uniquely gifted writer, no small part of her success has been her genuine interest in her readers. She responds to every bit of her readers' mail. This is met at one time, employing 3 people full-time to meet her demand. Damn. Her interest in others has been feigned for the sake of book sales. It seemed to me, she explains, that people were kind and generous enough to have an interest in me. How could I not respond? I wanted people to know that I appreciated their letters, and I appreciated them. Rice has recently taken to Facebook and Twitter, giving her more direct contact with her fans. Oh, it's so wonderful, she said. We're having a conversation about you on so many things. She calls the community people of the page, and wrote recently, I think we must remember that Facebook and the internet are all what we make them, are what we make of them. This page has accomplished something extraordinary and perhaps unique. This is truly a community infinitely more powerful than the sum of its parts, and I thank you for making it for what it is, for participating here in so many vital and inspiring discussions. This result is as important for the owner of a business as it is for the authors and bloggers. Brain slowing down, but you gotta power through this. Yeah, before I came live, I was thinking to myself, I'm gonna read the whole book today. So, keep dreaming, buddy. Keep dreaming. Colorless color. Alright. I need to do a better job of keeping track where I am, too. The result is important for the owner of a business as it is for authors and bloggers. In his cult, favorite Tresties, fast awkward business owner of Steve Beckham similarly admits, I have never considered myself a brilliant businessman. The country was experiencing one of the great refinances booms of all time, and I jumped in with both feet. Unfortunately, the refinance one it was for my brother's home. Instead of starting over, I set out to find a way to make the business work. This is when my fate started to turn. Beckham had already failed in two previous business ventures, a retail store and a recycling enterprise. Prior to his attempt in the mortgage business, he had every reason to pack it up and head back to school, or consider letting someone else hold his reins. He raised long enough to see that his approach was all wrong. From the beginning, he was after business when he should have been after a relationship. Not just a romantic relationship, like a genuine, real relationship. It's just fucking real. Life is nutty. Do I keep reading? I mean, no one's liked the video or commented, so it's like, should I keep reading? I don't know if I have below. I mean, I think I should. I want to keep reading. We're on page 5960. It's not quite 69. It's 59. Which is also a position if you look at it. Your heads are together. Wait, just kidding. It's an interesting shape. That's all I gotta say. 59. Look it up. Thinking. If I want to read or not. Because if it was page 269, I'd definitely read some more. I hear the birds chirping now. It's the morning. It's gross. I just don't want to contemplate having to go to bed because I know I'm tired and exhausted and want to go to bed. But like I have to make so many phone calls today. Almost passed out on stream. Could you imagine? I think that's me. Gonna read another page. Here we go. Before I could get another word in, he started asking me questions. Where'd you grow up? What do you do for a living? What high school did you go to? What are your kids' names? I left that encounter feeling 10 feet tall. In a subtle and unassuring way, he elevated himself in my mind. That encounter taught Beckham an invaluable lesson. From that day forward, he committed to asking thoughtful questions of every new person he'd met and every acquaintance he didn't know very well. Specifically, he explains, I decided to become a problem solver and a promoter, with no strings attached. This is why my business began to not only turn around, it began to take off. In a matter of months, Beckham's job turned to a lucrative career, and soon he became so stressful, he owned a mortgage company that was, since its inception, remained at the top of the industry. Perhaps more significant is his business has been 100% referral based for a decade. He estimates that each day, 1/4 of the calls his office receives have nothing to do with obtaining a mortgage, something he's very proud of. That they are people calling with questions like, where should I get my car repaired? Where should I take my in-laws to dinner? And whom should I call for life insurance? He explains that these people call him because he became known as the go-to guy and a large local network of friends. I didn't get that way by holding free mortgage seminars or billboard erecting a large billboard featuring my confident, trustworthy face. Quips Beckham. I got that way by helping people with hustling them for businesses. It is why Thoreau wrote, "Goodness is the way, investments that never fails." The same spirit of relating is within reach of every one of us. In every interaction, how simple it is to set out motivated only to get to know others and find a problem you can help solve, or a pursuit you can help promote. This is a simple secret to what Beckham calls bass awkward business. Yet the truth is that typical ways most conduct themselves in business relationships is what's backwards. I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. This isn't reciprocity. If this isn't reciprocity, it's bartering. It's bartering. An entirely different trajectory that moves the magic, and it's unadulterated magic that makes interactions so memorable. It's what draws us in. There is a trust and genuine sense of belonging and meaning. Today, there is simply no excuse to not take an interest in others' interests, even if you're not actively involved in clubs, groups, or localized organizations where face-to-face interactions are possible. There is still abundance and opportunities to learn about others' passions and concerns. What could happen if you spent 5 minutes of every day reading through the Facebook page of 3 friends, the professional biographies of 3 clients, or the personal blogs of 3 employees you haven't taken the time to know well? For starters, you'd certainly learn something about them that you didn't know before. It's also likely you would come to appreciate them more. Perhaps you have similar interests. This is a fodder for future conversation, even for future collaboration. Perhaps one is going through a difficult time. This is an opportunity to engage them with encouragement, and much easier as trust is already established in the common friend and time is already invested in common experiences. One can never underestimate the importance of affinity. Another really good word. It's like energy, right? Mana, hockey, affinity. Like a definition, please. It's in one of the games I play for. Is the strength of blinding a single molecule to its... What? Chromatography. So weird. An inclination towards a person or a thing, a natural liking or taste. Alrighty. Alright, affinity. Where did you go? Conversation. Even for the future collaboration, perhaps one is going through a difficult time. This is an opportunity to engage them with encouragement and a greater level of empathy. Perhaps you have a mutual friend. Perhaps you have a mutual friend. Wouldn't this make your relationship much easier, as trust has already been established? Blah 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 blah. Okay, there's affinity. Importance of affinity. One can never underestimate it. We tend to dislike what we don't know. Blogged Amy Martin, founder of social media powerhouse Digital Royalty and one of Forbes magazine's 20 best branded women on Twitter. After her first experience with NASCAR, Many people don't understand, or better yet, get the so-called monotonous day of life. Fuck. This entire time on my stream, music's been playing. And I don't want music to be playing. It's gross. Whatever. Not for my Instagram. That's at least that. Or Gucci. Okay. So NASCAR. Many people don't understand, or better yet, get the so-called monotonous day of left turns and mullets. She was admittedly in that champ before attending the 2011 Daytona 500. Shortly thereafter, she wrote a blog post about signing NASCAR. Praises for achieving a level of genuine connection and influence with its fan base that is rare in professional sports. Here's what I learned, she writes. Drivers do a fan Q&As and autograph sessions the day of the race. The Daytona 500 happens to be the biggest day of the year for NASCAR. I don't think Brett Favre was chatting it up with thousands. Another alarm. So early now. Sun's up, folks. For me at least. Drivers do fan Q&As and autograph sessions the day of the race. The Daytona 500 happens to be the biggest day of the year for NASCAR. I don't think Brett Favre was chatting it up with thousands of fans that day of the Super Bowl. I think a magical hot pass and could go anywhere. It was uncomfortably exciting, having unlimited access, and at times I worried about getting in the crew's way. I was a part of the action and wasn't the only one. Bottom line, fans have access. As for why Martin believes NASCAR approach is a smart move for any sport, she cites the following reasons. Access leads to connection. Fans are able to sign their actual racetrack. And that was half the pages, not even. We read like 20 pages. We read 40 last time, I think. But it's pretty late. And I think I'm gonna get some sleep, maybe, potentially. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate y'all. Much loves. And that's all she wrote. Yep. Such a weird way to turn out. Maybe you should come to the side. But no matter what side I come from, you always see my hand coming. Unless I do this. Wait for it. Wait for it. Girl, the way you move it got me in a trance. DJ, turn it up. Baby, it's my chance. Girl, drop to the floor. Hey, pretty girl. Watch we move. With no hands. Alright, we outie. I don't even know what I was doing. I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing. But have a good night, guys. Or good morning, actually. Do I want to leave right now? Yeah, I do. Pretty late. It's pretty early, depending on what your perspective is. Anyway, peace. Till next time. I'm gonna hit the end button now. Okay. I don't know why you're still here. You waiting around for something, or? 'Cause
I don't know. If there's going to be anything to wait around for, you might as well just click away. You're not gonna. You're literally just. Okay. This is life. I'm gonna have to hit the end button. I'll hit it because I'm tired. But yeah, kudos for you for staying this long. Sorry nothing happened. I told you. Unless we wait for a little bit longer. Nah. I think something's happening.